Our guests. I want to welcome to BKS1 Radio, the Storm Warning Show, Mr. Matthew Knowles. Let's clap it up for him.
How you doing, brother? How you doing?
All right, how you doing? First of all, let me start by saying this. It is an honor and a pleasure to speak to you, Mr. Knowles. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Hurricane Kiss.
How are you?
How are you today?
Now that we got you on the phone, there's so much we want to talk to you about. And first of all, how is the whole, and excuse the term, but how is the whole high going, riding the wave of just putting out your first book?
Hey, it feels like putting out a first album. There's a part of you that's extremely excited. There's a part of you that hope and pray that your product gets accepted because it's creative. It's your creation, so you want people to accept it, and then there's anticipation, and so it's all of those feelings rolled into one.
Now let me ask you, Matthew. I just want to go back to the essence real quick because for those that's been living under a rock. You're the father of an icon, and you put together one of the biggest super female groups in history. Now, going back to the essence, what is it that made you say, you know what? I know I'm a businessman. I'm already a business entrepreneur, whatever. I'm gonna start dabbling in this music industry.
Well, for me, it's all about passion. And when I my book, The DNA of Achievers, that's out today, and it talks about the 10 traits of successful people that start out with passion. And my passion has always been to motivate and to educate in the area of entertainment today, and also entrepreneurship. And so I was in the corporate America, and I was selling diagnostic imaging equipment, and this word managed care that we know today in the medical and insurance. But, the way we did business in the early 90s with diagnostic imaging, and that changed. And so I didn't want to change with the time. I wanted to do something different, something that I was passionate about. I didn't want to go to a job every day, and unfortunately, some people every day have to wake up to go and do something they don't love.
Right.
That's a terrible feeling, to wake up and go do something all day long that you don't love. I wanted to remain my passion, and so I started looking at things that I passionately love doing, and identify music was one of the things that I love. And at the same time, Beyonce was getting older, and she was in this young girl group, and they went to Star Search and lost. And as they lost, and I talked to Ed McMahon, who was the face of Star Search, and I said, "Hey, Mr. McMahon, I'm a dad. What do I do?" And he was like, "When people lose on the show, they go back home and they refocus, they make changes, they rededicate," and that's what started it for me.
Now, when it comes to formulating the group, Destiny's Child, before it was Destiny's Child, I'm quite sure it was probably a multitude of names. First, tell me, how did you choose the name, and then tell me, why is picking the right name so important for a group in the music industry?
Well, the group started out as Girls Time. And again, when it was the group Girls Time, these kids were like 12, 13 years old. I really played a different role. My role at that point was being a dad taking his kid to practice. That was my role. And then the Star Search thing happened, and went back to Houston and changed the name to Cliché. Then we changed the name to Something Fresh.
Wow.
Then the girls, actually, it went from Girls. I got that wrong. I went from Girls Time to the Dolls, and they were signed to Daryl Simmons.
Okay.
And then they got signed to Elektra Records through a production deal. Then they got dropped by Elektra Records, and then it became Cliche and Something Fresh. And then we got the girls signed with Columbia Records as Destiny, and then we had to change the name to Destiny's Child, and that's the name I gave the group, Destiny's Child.
Wow.
So that was all the different names, and even then members changed. You know, when it was Girls Time, they had about 20 member changes.
Jeez. Jeez. Now,
and then when the group went from Girls Time to the Dolls, there were 3 member changes. So that's, once you get to know the history, and my next book is the autobiography of Destiny's Child, a true story. You kind of understand there's always been changes in the group, lots of changes.
So they want to know.
That's what I have a seminar for all of those folks, and it's called The Entertainment Industry. How can I get in?
Now, tell us about that particular seminar, and where people could find it, and how much does it cost, and what's it going to consist of?
Well, the seminar I'm giving all over the world. Next week, I'm actually giving one of the seminars in Houston, Texas. On the 14th of November, it's in Macon, Georgia. The 22nd, I believe it's in Washington, D.C. The 18th of December, Washington, D.C. We're negotiating and talking about New York today, but you can go to eventbrite.com, and it's the entertainment industry. How do I get in? And it'll give you all the information of the cities, the dates, and the cost associated with it.
So let me ask you this, just as somebody, because I've actually been in the music industry myself for a while. Just going back, I'm gonna mention like the history, the history of Motown. Somebody like Barry Gordy. One thing that people loved about Motown is that they offered like grooming services for the artists. So when artists go to your seminar, will it tell them everything from A to Z? You know what I'm saying, on how to be a well-rounded artist?
Well, again, it's not just for artists; it's for all the people you just talked about. For managers, producers, songwriters. And it talks about, what you're talking in is a very good question. But that's more artists, when you're working on artist development. And I do have private classes for artist development. But again, this is overall for everyone in the entertainment and music industry. So I couldn't spend time on artist development, because you might have someone there that's a songwriter that that's not something they're really excited about. So you have to give specialty classes for artist development that would normally be just vocalists.
Right. Okay. So now a lot of what's going to be in the seminar too, when you talk about the DNA of achievers, all right, is that mainly focus on the entertainment industry?
No, the DNA of Achievers is a self-help book. It's for music business, and it's a motivational book all in one. So it's not just for people in the music industry. It's people that want to be the best that they can be in their profession. That's why I named it the DNA of Achievers, 10 Traits of Highly Successful Professionals. And in that book, I have 30 other highly successful professionals. Half of them are in the music industry, half of them are not. So these principles apply to anyone, regardless if you're in the music industry or not in the music industry.
Absolutely. Now, what I like about the start of the book, you have a foreword from somebody very well known in the industry, music mogul, entertainment mogul, Tommy Mottola. Just tell me how that took place.
Well, when I first got into the industry, my first artist was actually a rapper by the name of Lil O out of Houston that I got signed to MCA Records. My second artist that I got signed as a manager was Destiny's Child. And at that time, Tommy Mottola was married to Mariah Carey, but more importantly, he was the chairman of all Sony Music, which was Epic and RCA and Columbia Records. He was the chairman of that whole conglomerate. And I got an opportunity to meet Tommy and to get to know Tommy. And he took a liking to me, and I think I gained his respect as a manager. And when I asked him to write the forward, he said sure he would do that. So I was very, very proud to and thankful that he took the time to write the forward for this book.
That's actually huge. That's huge right there.
Well, Tommy Tola is a legend in the industry, similar to Berry Gordy. These are legends.
The question that I have for you, okay, we know that obviously you have the book out, The DNA of Achievers. Going back on everything that is in the book that is meant for your consumers, for your readers, is there anything that's in the book that you may have maybe made that you may have not followed along the way, like any mistakes that you've made that maybe you figured out along the way before writing the book?
Well, one of the chapters is called Learning from Failures. And, mistakes, failures, they're the same thing. But so we talk about that. I talk about it. I have 3 of my friends in the book that talk about how we learn and how I've learned from my mistakes and from my failures. And I always say that failures and mistakes are opportunity to grow, not a reason to quit. And often when we make mistakes and we have failures, people quickly they just want to quit. And what I'm saying is no to that, because what also happens is you're almost there for success and you quit, you give up way too early, and that's what that chapter is all about.
Okay. I want to talk. You know what chapter title stands out to me? Giving back, because so many people in this industry don't have a clue of what that whole concept of giving back is about. Can you explain a little bit about that to me?
Well, I can tell you for me what it means. When you grow up in Alabama, in Gaston, Alabama in the 50s, in the heart of segregation and desegregation, and you grew up on a dirt road with an outside bathroom, and you have the opportunity today to have kids that are highly, highly successful, and artists that you've worked with that are highly, highly successful, and executives that you had the opportunity to mentor, and the opportunity that you've had to be mentored. And when I look at my life and I see that path of success that I've had for myself and others, the word that comes to mind is gratitude.
Right.
And when you have gratitude, you want to help others. And it's not about money. It's about truly from your heart that you want to help someone else. And I've learned that the giving back can mean giving back of your time.
Right.
It can be giving back of money. It could be a combination of both. Sometimes giving back can just be act of kindness.
Right.
In today's generation, with all of the social media and blogs, and everybody's in a hurry to, make money off of others' misery. Sometimes it's just an act of kindness of saying thank you, of saying I appreciate you, saying that you have value and you mean something. And so that's what giving back means to me. And For other people, it could mean something different, and you respect the fact that everybody's value of giving back is different.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want people to go out and support this book, the DNA of Achievers. We're gonna clap that up because there's so many. You can just look at the chapters and everything. As you know, me as a business owner and an entrepreneur, I look at the chapters and I actually get excited about the book because when I see stuff like risk taking, that's huge. That's huge. Why is it so important that if you believe in something and you're passionate about it, go ahead and take that risk and put your all behind it?
Well, you're absolutely right. And, one of the things that I hope this book shows is that these traits all are intertwined. They're connected with each other. For example, if you're passionate, then what coexists with passion is work ethics. Because when you love something from the bottom of your heart and it gives you energy and it gives you fire and determination, then it's not work to you. I'm sure you guys, what you're doing right now, this moment, this second, you don't consider work. You consider it fun. And by the way, you happen to get paid for doing what you love doing. Absolutely. Isn't that a great thing to get paid for doing something you absolutely love doing?
Beautiful.
There's no better thing than that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then if you learn from failure, and sometimes when we take risks, because when you take risks, you're saying, hey, I'm going to really try something that's outside of the box. And so taking risk and thinking outside of the box go together. Taking risk and making mistakes go together. And then you look at building a team. Building a team, you have to have a leader. And then you have to strategic plan things. So all of these traits go together.
Absolutely. Now, when a lot of people think of Matthew Knowles, they mainly think of Beyonce, Destiny's Child, whatever. You work with a lot of different genres of music, correct?
Yeah, I do. I have a country label called Compadre. I bought this country label back in the early 2000s, and I have a legend on there. If you're really in the country, I'm not sure your listeners are, but there's a legend on there named Billy Joe Shaver that is a singer-songwriter that's written for Elvis Presley and some really greats. So I have a country label. Then, I did a partnership with BET back in 2011, 12, 13, for Sunday Best. And so 4 seasons of Sunday Best winners and runner-ups, I built a gospel label into the #1 largest independent gospel label in the world, Music World Gospel. And so Grammy Award winners Trinity 5-7, who is, we talk about Destiny's Child being the #1 female group ever in pop and R&B.
Right.
Well, Trinity 5-7 is the #1 trio group in gospel ever. And then I have a kids label, Baby Jams, Crazy Cousins, Kids Rap Radio. And then, I have legends like the OJ's last album, Shaka Khan and the London Symphony, Kool and the Gang, Sunshine Anderson, Dion Ferris, and Solange, 2 of Solange catalog records. And so those are some of the records that we have in our catalog. For Essence Music Festival, I did, I think, 7 years of all the artists that performed on Essence and DVDs of those artists, from Janet Jackson to, Beyonce's been on there, you name it. Gladys Knight, can go on and on and on. And so, folks don't know that part. They don't know that part of music world and its heritage and, who we've had the opportunity to work with around the world.
Right. You also, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you were part of writing Survivor.
One of the co-writers. I was fortunate to be one of the co-writers on Survivor, #1 song.
And see that, and that's the thing. And I gotta say this Matthew, before we conclude our interview, because I know with doing a lot of these interviews, and which you happen to handle the media a certain way, because I love how you do handle questions. You know what I'm saying? And I got a chance to catch a little bit of you earlier with Charlemagne, and I love how you conducted that interview and how you maintained your composure. Handling the media is a big part of being an artist or just being in this business. So will there be courses on that as well in your seminars?
Well, we always called it the Music World Boot Camp. When the girls years ago when they were young, we had media training, and my gospel artists media training. I have a new girls group. Probably will be my last group and artist. Might be, you never know. But they're called Blush Music, which is 3 ladies in Houston, 2 rappers and a vocalist. And they've been in artist development for a year. So media training is a real key and critical thing for this industry. But as you know, the whole industry and the whole landscape of media has changed today. And social media and blogs, they become a way of life for most people. But, I always caution. I was interviewing today, and I was just, talking to my wife, and I was talking about, you remember when you used to go to the grocery store 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you'd be waiting in a line to pay for your groceries, and you look, and in the rack would be a Star magazine, and
absolutely,
what would be that other magazine, like a Star magazine? Inquirer,
yeah.
The very good Inquirer. You remember how they used to have stuff like 2 elephants from Mars landed in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
So think about that for a second. And you just look at those magazines, you would laugh. And you used to think, man, how could somebody be so cray-cray to believe this, right?
Absolutely.
And you remember that.
No, I
remember that's what blogs and social media are today.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, how could somebody be so cray-cray to believe it?
Well,
I think because nowadays people believe anything.
Yeah.
Well, you could believe the same thing with these magazines back then, and you'll laugh. Mm-hmm. You're like, man, this is crazy. Like, why am I going to do it?
and my thing is too, and I'm glad we as we're talking and you getting familiar with how we do interviews and everything. For one thing, let me say this about BKS1 Radio and the Storm Warning Show. We don't do bashing interviews or smut interviews or whatever, bring up a lot of dirt, whatever like that. That's just not our take. I wanted to talk about the book, particularly, and your seminars, because that pertains to a lot of what we do under our umbrella at our entertainment company as well. And we have so many listeners that's just looking for direction. And what excited me about this interview about you is the fact that you say a lot, that you are an educator. And a lot of people in the entertainment world need to be educated. So why should everybody right now go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold, and get the DNA of Achievers?
That would make my evening. And, it's been a long day for me, and I'm just as excited to talk to you today as I was at 7 o'clock in Washington, D.C. And I'm that way every day because my passion, again, is to motivate and to educate in the role of entertainment and entrepreneurship. And that's a true thing for my spirit. I teach at Texas Southern University, and on Mondays, I teach from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. And I teach 2 courses. They're 2.5 hours long. And I have to hold my audience for 5 hours. I get a 15-minute break. But that's challenging. And I've done it for now 10 years and 8 years at Texas Southern on a Monday, teaching 2.5 hours, one class. And this semester I'm teaching artist management and I'm teaching Introduction to the Recording Industry.
Great.
And I have a full class, and everyone's engaged. And I feel it's a privilege to work with young people and young minds, but I also think part of that role is to also teach critical thinking and to understand that we're in an area and an age today that learning and knowledge is power. With a little knowledge, you have a little power. With a lot of knowledge, the world is ours.
I love that. I love that. And we have a question for you from the chat room.
Definitely want to send some love to everybody in the chat room. They have a lot of questions for you, Mr. Knowles, but out of respect for the interview, of course, a lot of them are directed towards, Destiny's Child, Beyonce and things of that nature. But to stick to the topic of the book that he's selling today, the DNA of Achievers, we have a question from guest 6623. What advice would you give today to a young teenage female artist as far as managing yourself or signing to a label? And I think that's a pretty safe question, considering that there might be some listeners that may be too young to maybe go purchase your book themselves or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but let's answer some of the questions.
Okay.
So the question, I just want to repeat it and make sure I understand it.
Yes.
This is a 16-year-old, first of all, right?
Well, no, she didn't give her age. I just said the guest number. She didn't put her name in the chat.
Okay.
She just said young teenage female.
She wants to know, should she manage herself, right?
Yeah, she said, what advice would you give today to a young teenage female artist as far as managing yourself or signing to a label?
Well, I mean, you can't manage yourself at that young age. Mm-hmm. That's not even logical. So we are talking about a teenager, so the oldest that they can be is 18 years old,
right.
19 years old, rather. And so we know at that young age in life, you haven't had enough experience to even remotely begin to call yourself knowledgeable about the music and entertainment industry. So you absolutely would be making a huge mistake to even begin to consider trying to manage yourself. That's the first thing. So my suggestion would be to, first of all, let's talk about if you are passionate about the industry, do you have the work ethics to practice? Do you have the skill set as a vocalist or a rapper? Let's talk about those things and let's be really real about it. And then let's see if you're ready to even begin to talk about a record contract. There's steps to this whole stuff. First, we have to do practice, this thing called practice. We have to get imaging right. We have to get right songs. We can go shoot really inexpensive videos and put them up on YouTube, and let's get some feedback from the public. Let's get feedback if they feel our music and our vision is the right one. Okay. That's what my suggestion would be to that young person.
That's an excellent answer.
And another question that I have for you,
those kind of questions I love.
Yeah. Well, just for the record, she's 17. She's actually an artist that we had on the show who is very talented. She's 17. And I guess
let me just share something with you. This is really important for your audience to hear. Mm-hmm. Where I am and where I sit in the music industry, let me tell you what I've yet to meet. I've yet to meet one artist to say that they were average talented. I've yet to meet one artist to say that they were average singers. I've yet to meet one artist to say that they average when it comes to practice. I've yet to hear one artist say that my imaging is average. Everybody think they're great, but they're not.
And that was going to be my next. That was going to be my next question. Yeah,
I so agree.
That was going to be my next question. My next question for you is: how important is it for you to even deal with anyone as an artist, or who I guess believes as himself as an artist? How important is it for you to work with somebody who is not necessarily doing what they need to do to give back to kind of get back to where music used to be. Because I think right now, in the society that we live in, we have a lot of artists who, like you said, they think they're great and they're not. I think radio right now is filled with a lot of gimmicky crap that nobody wants to hear. So how important is it for you to actually even sit down and even consider working with someone who might be an artist of that nature, who thinks that they're all that and they just might not be all that?
Well, another really good question. That's why I like these kind of questions. Because it's educational. I think you'll get a sense that I love to educate. So let's look at that from a different way. So when you come to Music World in Houston and you're an artist and you come to audition, hopefully you're hoping you get a record deal, and you come into my office and you get an opportunity to sit down on this sofa that greatness has sat on. I mean, greatness. I signed Earth, Wind, and Fire in my office, signed OJ's in my office, and I can go on. And you look and you see all these Grammys and BET Awards and MTV Awards and American Music Awards, and it's overwhelming. And then your heart is beating really, really fast, and you're ready to sing, or you're ready to play your guitar or play the keyboards and sing. And then I never want you to sing. I never want you to perform. I just want to sit on the sofa and talk to you, because I want to understand way before you sing a note. Are you passionate about this? That's critical for me. And then I came up with this great line, and then you guys had dropped out. And I was like, you could sing like a butterfly, sting like a bee, but if you're not passionate, then you're not for me.
That's it. That's your songwriting side, Matthew.
Don't give up all my secrets, man.
Now we have another question. This one was sent to me by inbox. Do you suggest, and just because you would be the perfect person, this question actually is really molded for you, because do you suggest that artists seek family members for management? Whether it be, having your husband manage you, having your father
mom,
manage you,
yeah.
your sister, your mother, or whatever like that. Do you think that's a good ideal? And or is it something they should stray away from just to keep the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
I look at it this way. It would be like saying, do you think because your dad owns the radio station that you couldn't be one of the daytime hosts on the show?
Right.
I think it's about talent. I think if your parents are talented and they know the business, or they are learning the business, or they came from another business that they were highly successful, where they understood distribution, marketing, sales. I think it should be who's the best at it. I think also when you're younger, like in your early teens, you do need to have that parental involvement in some kind of way. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a manager.
Right.
But I think it's about talent. I think regardless if it's a parent and they happen to be talented,
right,
then why not? Why couldn't they be a manager? But the reverse of that, if they're not talented, then hell no, they shouldn't be your manager.
With that being said, do you think in certain cases that an artist should have a business manager and a personal manager?
Well, not in the beginning, because there's nothing to. Business managers are strictly for finance. The thing that's not very clear, I believe, with new artists, there is no money to be made in year 1, 2, 3. Then you start making a little money in year 4, 5, and if you're lucky to be around that long, which 99% of the people aren't, but if you are lucky, then there's when a business manager. So one of the things that in my seminars, people go from A to X and Y before they go to B. You got to go through the steps. So to be even thinking about money and you don't even have a record deal, you're foolish. To even be thinking about money and you're on your first album, you're foolish. Get your craft really, really good first. And then you start thinking about that other stuff.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, Matthew. Now, you've done it. You basically done it all. You know, and again, I wish people would actually truly research you in the proper form because you have done it all. What is next for you?
Next for you is what I said is my passion and what I'm doing right now what we're doing right now, I could be talking to you on the phone. My wife just said all night. This is what I love is educating and motivating people to be the very best that they can be, and taking those experiences, good and bad, and helping them to be the best that they can be. That's what it is for me, and that's through seminars, that's through books, that's through educational modules online and online education. You can hear it in my voice. When you start talking about that, I get excited because that's my core. I mean, that's all I've done all my life is educate people and motivated them.
And that's to me very important. And it's funny because I listen to you, and some of the stuff you say, it's like I post about a lot of times on social media. Like I'm heavy on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook, and I've worked with artists before, and just skimming over your book because I'm thoroughly going to read the book and everything. But skimming over, I'm like, this man has a lot of knowledge, and knowledge is so important to have if you're going to survive in this game. Before you go, please tell everybody.
Hey, can you give me one more question, man? At least one more. Come on.
See. Now I'm ready. Okay. Let me ask you this. All right. So you came from the world of vinyl records, cassettes, and everything. So you missed the one I started with. What's that?
63. I started out with 8 tracks too. Don't forget the 8 tracks. Left out so it went from 8 track to cassette. Actually started with vinyl, then it went to 8 track, then cassette, then to CD.
So let me you got me cracking up. So do you think the whole introduction of the internet and with being able to share songs and everything like that, do you think that was the decline of the music industry?
I don't think necessarily it's the decline. Let me think. It impacted revenue. So that's different than the decline of an industry. I don't think one aspect makes gloom and doom. I think we made a big mistake 15, 20 years ago of not acknowledging young people and not acknowledging that they wanted to do it a different way, right? And I think that mistake has come to haunt us. And I know for a fact because I teach this, in terms of experiencing music, we today experience more music today than ever before.
Right.
So, see, there's not a lack of demand. We experience it way more. We experience it differently. We don't experience it with an 8-track, a cassette, or a CD. Now we experience it through streaming on our mobile device, digitally. So we experience it differently. So from a record label perspective, we have to look at different ways of monetizing that. Artists never made money from selling records, so it's no different in any of those 8-track, CD, vinyl. They didn't make money then selling records. So they're not making money now selling records. Where artists have always made their money and always will be in touring, number one, and songwriting and publishing, and then branding and endorsement and then merchandising. So the impact of streaming and all of that is not, we hear artists complaining. I don't know why, because they never made money selling records. The industry is never set up that way. That is only impacting really record labels for the most part.
Absolutely. I think the sad part too, Matthew, is that a lot of artists that walk through our door here, everybody thinks I can make a song, I put it up on iTunes, and I'm gonna be rich just because I made a song. and that's, to me, it's so sad, because as I've seen the industry change, artists have gotten lazy. And I have to say this, artists have gotten very lazy. And it's like, no, get out there and perform. I come from a day where people was performing on the corners. Their local bar, their local lounge, whatever like that, perform. And then just say if you had CDs, say you had 100 CDs with you, and you perform and people see your talent and they like your talent, they're gonna purchase right then and there. It's tangible. Right. I like the days of tangible product.
But one of the things I want you to think about, maybe saying a little bit different, is a true artist never ever talks about doing it to make money. When you talk to these people that are highly, highly, highly successful and iconic, you will never hear the word money come out of their mouth. You only hear them talk about, I want to make sure my show is perfect. I want to make sure everybody hit their cues. I want to make sure my dancers were tight. I want to make sure my band is tight. You're not going to hear them talk about money. These are like microwave sensations talk about money. True artists don't talk about money.
Ooh, wait a minute. You get the double clap on that. So with that being said, and see, when you say a name like Matthew Knowles, a lot of artists and people in the industry, they get intimidated, man, because let's be honest, you're behind one of the most iconic artists in the world. So when artists probably think like Matthew Knowles ain't trying to develop no new talent. Is that false? True or false?
No, I love developing new talent. Again, I started out by saying we do private seminars, and now I'm looking at ways to make that available for everyone, artist development. Because without artist development, there's not really much chance of success in this. This is just not an industry you walk into. We make it look like that on TV, and now we make it look like that on YouTube, but nobody just one day decide they're going to be famous and make money. That it just doesn't happen that way. There's a reason. You heard me say Destiny's Child got dropped by Elektra Records. We've read about Lady Gaga got dropped by Arista Record. We've heard and know about 50 Cent got dropped by Columbia Records. Alicia Keys got dropped by Columbia Records. I can go on and on and on. And these are the greatest people that you can imagine. And if they could make it, then why the hell does somebody think that they can practice 3 hours in a week and think they're going to be successful at this?
Yep.
Yes.
And I think,
why would you ever think that?
Preach.
So, that's just
I have to
microwave thinking,
I gotta definitely agree with you on that, and that I think, to me personally, is one of me and my group's biggest pet peeve, because we have this. It's almost, to use a lack of a better word, annoying, and I think that people have this huge misconception. Like how you said, why do you think that you can make it rehearsing for 2 and 3 hours a day, and whatever the case may be? I think there's this huge misconception was brought on because now we have these titles such as YouTube sensations and online sensations. When you have artists, and I really don't give a damn who doesn't like what I said, when you have artists like, let's just say, Rich Homie Quan, who came out of God knows where. And, he's developing this little dance that he's like how we just saw on BET. Or, these gimmicky, like I called them earlier, these gimmicky artists who aren't talking about anything. They're not really, they don't have any music with any substance the way we had back in the day when we first, came up. And I think that that's almost like a slap in the face to real artists who are actually out here, busting their behinds and putting in the hours of rehearsal and going out there and merchandising and going out there and promoting how we used to back in the day when we were signed with Columbia and we were on MCA and we were on the face and where we had like this engine that almost, that backed up these artists that had a passion. It's almost like a slap in the face for the artists that still have the passion and who are going through hell and high water just to make it back to where where they used to be, because you have all these other artists, like we said earlier, who think they're God's gift to the earth, and then you have these people on the other side of the industry who are making them believe that they are, aside from what we believe and what we know is true. And I think that's
well, you're absolutely right. I mean, and that's always short-lived. The beautiful thing about today's industry is that because of technology, in some cases, you can have a great, wonderful career and not even go the record label route.
Right.
For some people, it's just simply in the local bar or at some hotel that you can have a career, or being on cruise ships, or it's so many different ways to experience happiness in this entertainment industry, and not everybody think it's about also getting these major record deals. Those days have come and gone.
Far gone.
You're not going to see those big artists anymore. Not going to have $1 million videos and $1 million budgets to make albums. And that day is gone. And so everybody has to adjust to reality. And what does that look like? And again, it goes back to that place. Are you living your passion? I'm going to always take you back to that DNA of achiever. What is that? What makes that person different is that they're passionate about their music. And when they're passionate about their music, they're going to rehearse all the time. And when you have those work ethics, you're going to look for a team of people to surround you to help you become more successful. You're going to get and look for a manager that really knows what they're doing and have relationships. You're going to look for an entertainment attorney that has relationships. And then when you're really looking at that and have a manager that knows what they're doing, along with your manager, you're going to sit down and come up with a strategic plan for yourself as an artist. And you're going to look at short-term plans, and you're going to look at long-term goals and objectives. And if you really have this team, then they're going to tell you. If you're female, imaging becomes critical. It's not just your music, it's how you look as well. And they're going to tell you, even if you're a male, you have to have style. You have to have a star quality, and something makes you different. And then if you are really doing what you should as a manager, you're going to think out of the box. And your music is going to be different. It's not going to sound like anybody else's. It's going to be unique. Keyword, unique and different. And then you're going to have success, and then you're going to give back to people. And then you're going to take risks with your music, with your style. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get how the DNA of achievers is also applicable to music?
Absolutely. It again, with that being said, you shared a wealth of knowledge tonight on BKS1Radio.com on the Storm Warning Show. We truly appreciate what you shared with our listening audience, Matthew. And again, anything else, we're going to go out and share these links for the DNA of Achievers. Please, again, give us the information for the listeners, again, for the seminars that you're doing.
The seminars, the easiest way is just to type in Matthew Knowles at, and you just made me have a unique moment. I almost had a mental lapse, but then it came to me, eventbrite.com. So just go to eventbrite.com. Guys, I've had a really good time, with you guys tonight. I appreciate what you do, and especially the fact that you spend the time to educate your audience means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to your audience. So I applaud both of you, and Godspeed to both of you.
Thank you. Shout out to Tracy, Double Exposure, everybody on the team and everything.
If you'd like to get that book signed, just go to DNAofachievers.com, and I will sign your book and send it to you. So DNAofachievers.com is another way if you want to get the hardback. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
have to take it down right now. It's called What? A Wrap.
All
Good
right.
night.
Take care. Good night. Matthew knows, BKS1radio.com. Great guy. Enjoyed talking to him. Went over. He really didn't want to hang up, though. You know he didn't want to hang up. Love you, Matthew. Keep it locked. BKS1radio.com. Let's wrap it up.